I made a digital trading card game called the Summoner's Nexus TCG, which is now available on iOS and Android devices. You can check the link in the description to find out how you can play. And as part of making that game, well, the whole process is documented on this channel, but a big part of it was designing the decks that have gone into the game. Cards in this game are broken into subsets, which can be major or minor. Major subsets are the strategies that make up your entire deck, which consists of 20 cards. Minor subsets are the smaller groups, the ones that sort of fill in the gaps that the major ones leave behind. This video is going to be dedicated to talking about the Valiant subset, one of the best defensive minor subsets in the game. If you enjoy the video, please don't forget to leave a like because it really helps us out, and subscribe to join the community, find out how to play, get into matches, join the Discord, do all of the things. Now, a minor subset is any deck that contains 5 or fewer cards, so at 3 cards, the Valiant subset comes in very, very neatly within what you tend to see among the minor subsets. Now, I say that it's the best defensive subset because that's what all of their effects do in one way or another. We'll take it rank by rank and I'll explain each one. The first and most important card in this deck is Damien the Valiant. In truth, most people play this deck specifically so that they can gain access to this one card. It has one of the better defensive abilities that exists in the Summoner's Nexus TCG. Its ability is called Ring Armor, and it says, when your opponent declares an attack, if this card would be destroyed by that battle, negate the attack. Now, what this basically means is that whenever your opponent tries to kill this guy the very first time, they're not able to. Now, that might sound very basic on a surface level, but what this means in practice is that it takes 2 attacks every single turn to kill this card. If you can't muster 2 attacks in a single turn, he will live to the next turn, and then you will need 2 attacks again to try and take him out. Now, bringing this into the actual game, why is this relevant? Well, it's relevant for a few reasons. Reason number 1, a single card has the ability to block an entire attack. It does not matter if your opponent has 500 times more attack than you do. If a card with 0 defense is in your defense zone when that big monster attacks, yeah, it's gonna destroy the card with 0 attack, but it's not making it through to your life points. So, a single card blocks a whole attack. First important thing to note. The second important thing to note is that cards in this game can only attack once per turn, which means that your opponent will need to have summoned 2 cards in their assault zone in order to get past Damien. They must be playing a very offense-heavy strategy for them to just get past Damien. They still won't be able to attack you because in the Summoner's Nexus TCG, there are summon limits, which means that you can only summon 2 cards per turn in your attacking zone in the first place. So on the first turn of the game, if you were to play Damien the Valiant in your defense zone or elsewhere, you will get to that later, you are guaranteed to be safe. Your opponent will not be able to harm you on the first turn based on just this card alone, which very few other cards can offer. Now, on top of that, as a rank 1, it only costs you 50 points from your Nexus gauge. Now, to keep that sort of balance because you get so much value out of such a cheap card, it has 0 attack and 0 defense. It will blow up if you just blow on it lightly. It's just very difficult to blow on it lightly. I mentioned briefly that normally you would play this card in the defense zone because it's a defensive card, but what we've sort of found is that it can also be played in your counter zone. Now, the counter zone is where you play cards that you want to use to intercept your opponent's incoming onslaughts, and by putting Damien the Valiant in such a zone, when they come to try and get past him, they still have to attack twice. So it's just sort of a preemptive way of using his effect. Instead of waiting for them to come to you, you can send him to block their path. Now, in addition to Damien, we have Darius. He's the rank 2 of the deck, and you're going to see a theme with the naming. He has 2 effects because he's a rank 2, and he costs 100 points from your Nexus gauge to summon. How it works is rank 1s will cost 50, rank 2s will cost 100 points, rank 3s will cost 200 of your 1,200 Nexus gauge total. Now, his first effect is Chainmail. If you control at least 2 Valiant avatars, your opponent can only target Valiant avatars you control for attacks during the next battle phase. Now, that is a very strong effect, but not a very commonly used one. Basically, what it does, how it works, what it means, is that if you set a trap properly, let's say you have 2 cards in your defense zone. Let's say you have maybe Darius, for example, and you have the Wandering Ryu, and you manage to activate this effect. Let's say there's another Valorant monster somewhere else on the field. Well, you activate this chainmail ability, yeah, your opponent can attack Darius, but the Wandering Ryu is completely safe. They cannot touch him. And so that's sort of the power of this effect. Now, what we found in testing is that this effect, when used in that conventional sort of way, is nice, but it's not crazy strong, specifically because it only prevents the attacks on the other cards during the very next battle phase, and each turn has 2 battle phases. So if you use it in battle phase 1, then that means in battle phase 2, your opponent can still attack freely. What we've found, though, is there's a very cheeky way of using this ability that is pretty dang strong, whereby if you put a card that is not a Valiant avatar in your counter zone and send it forward, and then you have 2 Valiant avatars in your defense zone, right? You activate this chainmail ability, and the card that is in your counter zone now cannot be targeted by your opponent in the next battle phase. It basically prevents your opponent from doing anything for a single battle phase, wasting some of their time, and allowing you to sort of stall until you're able to get bigger defensive bodies on the field. You have to be sort of skillful when setting up that specific play, and it could be classed as being somewhat expensive because of all of the moving pieces, but it's something that this card can do. Its other ability is called Last Stand, which says, when this card is destroyed by battle, the card that destroyed it becomes fatigued. Now, fatigued is a status condition in this game that makes it so that cards cannot form what we call a chain of momentum. Now, in the Summoner's Nexus TCG, when a card attacks another card, a battle takes place and the winner survives. They take some damage from the losing card, but the losing card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard. Now, if I attack an enemy card and there are other enemy cards in the same zone where that battle takes place, my card is going to form what we call a chain of momentum, i.e., it will be forced by the mechanics of the game to attack any adjacent cards in the area. The logic behind it is you wouldn't see one of your friends getting jumped and just stand there and be still. You would also get involved in the fight. So the attacking card is drawn into battle with every other card in the environment. Now, this can sometimes be a benefit because you get to attack multiple times off of a single swing, but it can also be a detriment because sometimes you would end up getting destroyed by the subsequent battles. Now, what Darius the Valiant does with his ability is he tries to stand on the front lines, he tries to defend you, and when he gets destroyed, he prevents a chain of momentum from being formed, i.e., after his destruction, no one else can die, right? He protects all of your other defending cards from any more attacks from that specific attacking card. Now, the last card in the deck is our rank 3, Dario the Vigilant. Now, he is one of the premier cards of the deck specifically because he can add a lot of defensive power to a backline, as we're about to see. His first ability is Night's Watch, which says, when this card is summoned, increase the defense of all your cards by 100, not just your defenders. Specifically, it says every single card that you control gains 100 defense, and then Valiant avatars you control gain an extra 50 defense on top of that. So Valiant cards gain 150 defense off of this effect. Meanwhile, every other card you control gains 100 defense. The amount of value you can get off of this is ridiculous. To put it into perspective, one of the biggest boosts in stats, right, that you will see a card give to another card or to itself is something in the range of like, okay, 200 attack or 200 defense here and there. But in a situation where you play this somewhat late in the game or in the mid game, for example, and you have summoned maybe 3 cards in your defense zone, and then you summon this card as well as, you know, another 2 defending cards, that's 6 defenders. This one effect is about to boost you up by at least 600 points of defense. That is massive value to gain off of a single card, which is why he's a rank 3, so he's going to cost you a lot more to get onto the field. Now, that would also take quite a bit of setup to do what I just explained, and so it's not seen as commonly, but no matter how you use this guy, you're going to be getting some value out of him. His second ability is Valiant Stride. It's an activated ability that lets you tribute one of your other Valiant avatars and increase this card's defense by another 150. Now, the logic behind this is, yes, this guy can come and raise up everyone's defense to a certain number, right? Let's say we all go up by 100 defense. Well, he started at 0, so it's still not that high. The level of protection you have off of that is really good, but let's say your opponent comes with a very, very big single monster that can swing over those values. Well, that's not great. So this is an effect that, instead of spreading the power out evenly, allows you to make this card bigger, allow it to rise to the challenge to counter other big cards that are coming your way. The final effect is also Last Stand, so it works exactly the same as Darius the Valorant. If this card gets destroyed, it applies a fatigue status to whoever destroyed it. Now, it's sort of tricky because, well, if I know that this card can use Last Stand, I'm just going to attack it last. I'm not going to attack this card first. So the last ability isn't the strongest in the world, but it still comes in clutch in certain situations. So that's all of the cards explained. How do you actually play with this deck? Alright, now what you're looking at on your screen is what I like to call War Drums. It is the overall best defensive deck currently in the game. Now, a big part of why it's such a good defensive deck, well, that comes down to the Valiant subset. We can see in this deck list that we have Damien the Valiant in our opening hand, as well as Daryl the Valiant. Now, Darius is in our resource deck because he's not as useful in this version of the strategy in the early game especially. There's a good chance that he may not see play in this version of the deck. He may end up being used as discard fodder or one thing or the other, but in truth, if you wanted to find a use for him in this build, you definitely could. Now, because they're a minor subset, their job is to support larger strategies, and what we've got in here with them are the Ancient Beast subset and the Aria subset. The Aria subset are built to build up over the course of the first 3 turns, and so the Valiant subset's job is to protect them while they do that setup. Now, after the Arias have done their whole setup, and so the Valiant subset monsters are here to protect them. Now, while the Arias are doing their whole setup thing, the Ancient Beasts are waiting in the wings. They're in the resource deck, and by the time the Arias are done setting up, you would have drawn some Ancient Beast monsters that will then carry you over the course of the rest of the game to victory. So the Valiant monsters are here for their protective effects. They're here to buy you time and act as a wall that allows you to set up your main strategy. Okay, so I've loaded into a game with the War Drums deck just to sort of show you how I would go about starting to play with a deck like this. Now, in my opening hand, I have Damien the Valiant, and I'm going to put him in the counter zone. I'm going to use a strategy where he intercepts my opponent on their way to me in order to buy me a little bit of time. I'm going to put Arias in the just defense zone over the course of the game. That's primarily where I'm going to be dropping them to allow them to set up their strategies as we go along. I'll set Incinerate on turn 1 again to just buy me a little bit of time, and you know what? I'm going to combine that with the Freeze Rune. The Freeze Rune is really, really good with Damien the Valiant, specifically because if it takes 2 attacks to destroy Damien, and you can freeze one of your opponent's 2 attacking cards, well, that just guarantees that they don't even get through Damien. They need a second turn to even have a chance at getting to you. So, our opponent is playing the aggressive strat. The bot is on normal difficulty, just so I can explain as we go. I'm going to activate the introduction effect on the Aria avatar, and I'm also going to start... I think I'm going to start weakening not my opponent's attackers because I don't really have to worry about them. I'm going to weaken their defender, right? The attackers aren't so much of a problem. I'm going to allow everything here to just play out as is, right? So the Incinerate effect resolves, my opponent gets burned, and they're going to continue to take damage for 2 turns. An introduction is now set up. If you check over here, the introduction effect is now active on the field, all right? Now, we've made it over to the end of movement phase 2. I have to activate freeze here if I'm going to be activating it. I will discard... I'll discard Card Exchange. That's just a card that allows me to draw more cards. And I'm going to freeze the Sand token, right? This means that it just can't declare an attack. It can no longer move. It can't do anything other than activate effects. And most tokens in this game don't have effects. We don't have to worry about that. Our opponent is going to attack us. We'll activate Ring Armor to negate that attack since it would destroy Damien. And there we go. That's all sorted. So we are safe for the entirety of this turn. Our opponent cannot do anything to us. Alright, now, turn 2, we're going to draw some new cards. If this were a real match, my opponent would be summoning more monsters, so this strategy probably wouldn't work as well, but because it's an AI battle, the AI doesn't summon new cards until you destroy the ones that it currently has, at least in the base versions of the training mode. We're working on adding in more advanced AI, but that will come later. Now, for the next part of the strategy, I can summon 2 cards on this turn. Unfortunately, I drew a card that has no defensive potential, but that's okay. I'm still going to make do with what I have, right? I will summon Melodies of the Aria because it's turn 2, so it needs to be summoned on this turn to get the actual value out of what it does. And then I'm going to summon it alongside Dariel. So Dariel will hit the field this turn, and we're going to be forced to use Night's Watch since it's a mandatory activation. And that's it for this turn set of strategy. Yeah, that's everything I need. Okay, so wave start. We are immediately going to be activating Night's Watch. You see that he immediately went up by 50 defense there, so it's an immediate boost to all of your Valiant avatars, and they get more later on. And I'm going to activate the chorus ability on Melodies of the Aria, so she's going to fortify any Aria cards that get summoned later on in this contest. She also got a nice little defense boost because of the effect of Aurora that was activated on turn 1. Now, movement phase rolls around, everything is sorted. We've gotten some nice defense. We got 300 points off of that one activation of Night's Watch. Really good, and it would have been even more in a more planned flow of events, I suppose. So, Ring Armor gets activated, and we block the incoming attack once, right? Now, unfortunately, the second attack will come through this time around, and so Damien's getting taken out here, but he served his purpose. He gave us 2 turns of setup uninterrupted. Right? Now, again, in an actual game, your opponent might have had a 3rd monster waiting in the wings. He still bought you a full turn of setup and disrupted your opponent's strategy for turn 2 as well. Now, wave end here because our opponents can't attack multiple times. We make it into the next turn. Now, I made a point about how if I had drawn something defensive, it would have been good to also add on top of the setup that I have here. In truth, when you're dealing with cards in this game, there are summon limits. You can summon 2 cards in the assault zone per turn, 2 cards in the defense zone. So these 2 that I put on the field were the only ones that in truth I could put in those positions. So realistically speaking, the only exception is when you're playing the Wandering subset, which is what I had in mind, because they can teleport around on the board, and I usually play them with the Valiants since their synergy ratings link up. Anyway, back to the current battle. We are starting to look pretty good in terms of where we're at. I have altogether a 500 point wall. My opponent only has 400 points of defense coming my way. So I'm going to switch gears to offense, right? I want to be just a little bit aggressive here with what I do for my next set of plays. Now, wave start, I'm going to activate Outro, which is going to make it so that the next card I summon is automatically inducted into the Aria subset, and in truth, the Valiants have already played their part flawlessly. They bought me the time that I needed to make it to turn 3, and now I have the ability to do other things. I can switch gears and start to go on the offensive here. Now, depending on the order that the AI decides to attack, we may get to show off oh no, I don't think we're going to get to show off the effect of Last Stand here. The AI has chosen to go after that main card over there, but that's absolutely fine. Who gets taken out next? Okay, they go after Aurora next, fair enough. And their chain of momentum is still going to carry them into our final card over here, but that's absolutely fine. Now, what's really cool about this deck and why the Ancient Beast subset is so good with this deck is because we've expended basically all of our defenses, but the Ancient Beasts have the ability to create rider tokens whenever they destroy monsters. So after bolstering our defense and whittling our opponent's resources down, we now have the power to use our effects and steal their defenders and continue to bolster our defenses. So even when we're on the offensive, we're on the defensive. And this is what allows you to start to turn the tide of the battle and start dealing direct damage in an effort to win. Now, because I don't want this video to be too long, we're going to stop there, but I hope that this was a useful look at how you play the Valiant cards, the situations that you might want to apply them in, and just a better look at the Summoner's Nexus TCG overall. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to learn about how you play more decks in this game, and join our community to find matches and just, have fun with it. At the end of the day, that's why we made the game, is just so people can have some fun. So I look forward to seeing you later, and have a good one. Bye.